Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Dana here. Today I will be sharing how to make this hello card. To start off this project, I'm going to be doing a little bit of ink smooshing. All these papers will end up being die cut later. To start off, I'm using antique linen Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just smooshing that on the papers using an acrylic block. If you're interested, I do have a full supply list in the description box below. I do use affiliate links when available. They do not cost you anything extra. I just get a small kickback from any purchases that you make when using these links. It's just a way to help support the channel so I can keep bringing you all this different content. After getting the first layer of ink down, I'm going to go ahead and dry that off with the heat tool. And then for the second color, I'm going to be using Distress Oxide in Old Paper. And I'm just doing the same thing, mushing the ink onto the acrylic block, mixing it with a bit of water, and then smushing it down on the papers. And then I'll just set those aside to dry. For the background of the card, again, I'll be doing a little bit of ink smooshing, starting off with antique linen Distress Oxide ink. And then drying that off with the heat tool. Then I'm going to add just a bit of stamping to the background using this Handwritten Stamp by Simon Hurley and Ranger. And I'm going to ink that up in Distress Oxide ink in Old Paper. Instead of using a stamp block, I'm just kind of bending the stamp and holding it in my hand and just stamping it in random spots on the background. This is just to add a little visual texture. And then I grabbed this Paris to London stamp set from Holtz, and I'm just going to be using the stamp that has all the postage marks on it. And again, I'm just inking it up in the old paper oxide and stamping it randomly on the background. Once I was done with the stamping, I am going to emboss this piece for the background. This is the Petite Bow 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. And I just ran that through my Platinum 6. I didn't show that. I figured y'all have seen that a couple times already from me. Then I wanted to create a gel printed paper that I'll be die cutting later. So I pulled out my gel plate and I'm just inking it up with Walnut Stain Distress Oxide ink. And then giving it a spritz with the Walnut Stain Spritz. And then spraying down the entire plate with water. The paper that I'm using is just some thinner mixed media paper. I let the paper sit for just a minute on the gel plate, just so it soaks up a bit more ink, and then I'm just dabbing it around on the gel plate, just creating some texture. And then I'll just set that aside for later. The die that I'll be using to cut out that gel printed plate is the Emerald Cut Labels and Tag die from Spellbinders. And I just cut that out using my Platinum 6 machine. I'm going to be using the florals out of this die set. This is a Step into Spring die to cut out those ink smushed papers that I made in the very beginning. And I'm just gluing those down to a piece of patterned paper. This pattern paper I also cut out using the Emerald Cut Labels die, but I did not cut it into a frame. I just cut the base die out. This pattern paper is from an old Prima set. I don't even think they make it anymore. But I'm just randomly gluing down the flowers to the bottom right-hand corner, just wherever I think they look nice. After I got done gluing them, I did cut off the stems that were hanging off the edge. And then I'm gluing down that frame that I created using the Emerald Labels die. And I did leave some of the flowers so that they would intentionally hang over the edge of the frame. I probably should have glued those on last because I fiddled with this for quite a bit, trying to get those flowers in the right spot so that the frame would match up with the base. But I got there in the end. And then for the sentiment for this card, I chose to use the Hello die from the Vivid Script Sentiments die set from Spellbinders. I cut the Hello part out of just the leftover from that gel printing sheet. And then the shadow piece I cut out just from an old book page. I'm just gluing those together here using my Barely Arts glue and my squeezers. In my opinion, you have to have squeezers when you're fiddling with small die cuts, especially when you have sausage fingers like I do. Then to add a bit of interest to the embossed panel, I'm just inking around the edges with a foam blender and tea-dye Distress Oxide ink. And then I'm gluing that down to a 5x7 card base. This card base is pre-made. I just typically buy them pre-made. I don't fiddle with trying to make them myself. And then to finish everything off, I'm just gluing down the emerald piece to the center of the card. And then that finished off today's card. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, take some time to pamper your inner goddess, and I will see you in the next one.